As Michael Bell and colleagues beautifully put in their book An Invitation to Environmental Sociology, environmental justice is the transformative justice that calls for identifying and changing gaps in mutual aid. These gaps manifest themselves within three intersecting axes of environmental justice across time, across social space, and across species. The first time I encountered a vision of environmental justice across species, it felt like a spell had been spoken into my world. It sounded to me like voices of souls ahead of their time, who dared to speak for those who cannot. Environmental justice across species raises questions about the rights and sustenance of the non-human. This video is an invitation also to listen carefully, even if indirectly, to our planet's quietest and most vulnerable voices, those of non-human animals whose cries for justice have too long remained unheard.
We have turned Carl Sagan's pale blue planet Earth into blood-stained planet slaughterhouse. Well, human beings now comprise 30% of the mass of all land animals. Slaughter farm animals comprise 66%, and natural wild animals are only 4%. Now, in human history, only 100 billion human beings have ever lived. 7 billion people are alive today, and we human beings torture and kill 2 billion sentient, living, loving animals every week. 2 billion a week. We stab and suffocate 1 billion ocean animals every 8 hours. 1 billion every 8 hours. If human beings were killed at the same rate, we would be wiped out in one weekend. 10,000 entire species are wiped out every year because of the actions of one species, and we now face the 6th mass extinction in cosmological history. If any other organism did this, a biologist would call it a bloody virus. I heard the screams of my dying father as his body was ravaged by the many cancers that killed him. I realized I'd heard those screams before. In the slaughterhouse, on the cattle ships to the Middle East, and a dying mother whale as a harpoon explodes in her brain as she calls out to her calf. Their cries were the cries of my father. They were identical. And I discovered that when we suffer as equals. If you want to serve your age, betray it. But what does that mean, to betray your age? It means expose its lies, humiliate its conceits, debunk its arrogance, and condemn them to face harsher truths.
Na verdade, quando o ser humano se coloca no centro, na posição mais alta da hierarquia da criação, esse ser humano que se colocou lá em cima e se julga tão superior, tão inatingível, foi um ser humano masculino. E eu, como estudante de filosofia, desde jovem, sentia muito essa pressão da opressão masculina sobre até a mente da jovem estudante mulher. Então eu fui me identificando muito com os seres que sofrem a pressão e o peso de outros seres, forçando-os a servirem aos interesses desses que estão por cima. Então também a minha condição de mulher me ajudou a eu me identificar mais e a procurar mais uma referência conceitual que pudesse explicar a minha condição de ser humano, sem esquecer a animalidade nossa. E quando me refiro à animalidade nossa, não significa brutalidade. Geralmente, quando você fala, você é um animal, você xinga o outro como um bruto, né? Não, a animalidade é essa delicadeza, a fragilidade da nossa vida, do nosso corpo e da possibilidade de continuarmos vivos no planeta, dependendo das coisas que fazem contra os nossos interesses. E tudo isso que eu apliquei há 30 anos atrás em relação às mulheres, que eu senti isso muito forte, num domínio masculino forte, hoje eu posso ver que a mesma coisa nós, homens e mulheres, fazemos contra os outros animais, que são tão indefesos perante nós, quanto as mulheres há 30 ou 40 anos atrás eram indefesas perante os homens. Então, está tudo ligado, na verdade. A minha biografia como mulher, como filósofa, não poderia ter escapado dessa temática que hoje é a minha temática central de trabalho.
The animals have the same rights as we have.
I don't think they have all the same rights, and no animal rights person thinks that, Pat. I think that we don't think they should have the right to vote, and we don't think they should have the right to divorce, and we don't think they should have those sorts of rights. What we do think is really very simple. We think that we should recognize the right to be treated with respect in their case that we recognize in your case. And what that means in particular is this. If everybody in the audience would benefit by exploiting you, I would stand up and defend you and say this is not a justified treatment of you just because others are going to benefit. That's what the right to be treated with respect involves. So similarly, what an animal rights person thinks is that other animals should not be treated in the way we treat them just because we're going to benefit from doing it. Because we find it convenient, because we find it economically advantageous, because we find it customary, because we find it enjoyable.
Where do you stop in terms of affording respect to other living creatures on the earth?
I think that is a profoundly difficult question. And I always say that wherever you draw the line, draw it with a pencil, because you might want to erase it because you find something out that you didn't know before.
But where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where I draw the line is with animals where we have sufficiently good reason to think that they're not only in the world, but aware of the world and aware of what happens to them, and that what happens to them matters to them. And in particular, that they can experience pain and pleasure, fear, and relief. So where that is, I'm not sure exactly, but it certainly is the case that the animals that are raised, commercially raised for our food, cattle, sheep, hogs, those animals, chickens, certainly are above the line wherever any reasonable person would draw it. What you do about mollusk and oysters and so on, I don't know. But I give them the benefit of the doubt because I have no reason to eat them.
For me, the personhood of non-humans means that we recognize one right, only one right, the right not to be property. That is the only right that I believe we ought to accord to animals. But if we did accord them that one right, our whole basis for institutionalized exploitation would evaporate. We would cut down by 99.9% the number of conflicts that we have with animals. Would we bring them into existence? They are things. They are food animals, they are rodeo animals, they are circus animals, they are sport animals, that, whatever they are. These are animals that we bring into existence for the purpose of our exploitation. And then we sit around and we worry about what our moral obligations are to them because we have conflicts with them. The conflicts we have are conflicts we create.
Is your main purpose? Because most of the world won't become vegan.
It depends on which day you ask me. The world, injustice can't live forever. The world will become vegan one day.
Do you really believe that?
Just like every woman on this planet will one day have their equality with men. Just like one day all oppression will fall by the wayside. Injustice doesn't live forever. And it seems insurmountable, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm in the trenches, believe me. It looks like and seems like it can't happen. But remember, it took 400 years to convince white people in America not to own black people. You can see why this is taking so long. We can't even treat each other with kindness, let alone treat the chickens and the pigs and the turkeys and the insects of the world with kindness. But I think we can treat each other with kindness one day once we learn how to treat the animals with kindness.
You know,
where do humans get off owning and controlling living beings? Where do we get off thinking that we're the most special thing that has ever existed on this planet, when in reality, we're the most unspecial thing that has ever existed on this planet? Are you aware that if humans were removed from the planet, the extinction of humans would benefit everything that exists? Are you also aware that if the bees died off, as we've been talking about this for about 10 years in the news, the whole system collapses? If the ants were exterminated, the whole system would collapse. This is how important and special ants and bees are to the world. Why do we think we're better than they are when they serve a vital role and we serve no vital role whatsoever? We're tormentors, we're oppressors.
Turn me loose from your hands, let me fly to distant lands, over green fields, trees and mountains, flowers and forest fountains, home along the lanes of the skyway. For this dark and lonely room projects a shadow cast in gloom, and my eyes are mirrors of the world outside, thinking of the way that the wind can turn the tide, and these shadows turn from purple into gray. Just let me wake up in the morning to the smell of new mown hay, to laugh and cry, to live and die in the brightness of my day. I want to hear the pealing bells of distant churches sing, but most of all, please free me from this aching metal ring. And open out this cage towards the sun, for just a skylight pigeon dreaming of the open, waiting for the day he can spread his wings and fly away again. Fly away, skylight pigeon, fly towards the dreams you've left so very far behind.